something went right. I can at least call when stuff's gonna break. Sometimes. Okay, awesome. It worked, and as you can see... Okay, it didn't work. Welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Chatter series, where we build a chat application from scratch. And in this video, it's going to be a bit of a maintenance video, as we'll be updating some of our old code, as it's been a while since the last episode was released. So in this video, we will be doing two things. One, sort of invalidating everything we did in the previous video, as it's now a lot easier to incorporate Firebase in your Flutter application, and it's also a lot easier to integrate StreamChat in a Firebase application, as there's now Firebase Extensions for StreamChat. The other thing that we'll be doing in this video is migrating our code from version 3 of StreamChat Flutter Core to version 4, and we'll discuss some of the benefits of migrating, and I'll just show you the ins and outs of what you need to do. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and as always, you technically don't need to have watched the previous videos, although it will help depending on how familiar you are with Flutter, Firebase, and StreamChat. So yeah, with that said, let's jump into the code. If you are completely new, the place to start would be the GitHub repo, where you can clone the correct branch that you are interested in. So by the time you watch this video, it will be tutorial 004. And it's going to be called, I'm not too sure at this stage. It will be uploaded, and the description, or the YouTube description will have the information. So yeah, what we want to do now is basically for this video tutorial, I'm going to start with main, which is equal to the last tutorial. And we're just going to clone that repo, and then we'll open it in VS Code. So okay, and once you've opened it in your IDE of choice, you need to run flutter pub get. But before we do that, as you can see, the repo doesn't contain the different platform folders. So there's no Android or iOS or web. So we're just going to say flutter create. And for the purposes of this video tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to do Android. So you can say -- platform Android, and then you create it in this directory, and this will create the Android builder files that we need to compile to an Android application. And automatically Flutter pubget has run for us, so we don't need to do that. And just to make things not messy, we're going to remove the test folder. Maybe in a future video, we can actually add tests and do a little bit better separation of concerns for our code base. Once we have the code, the next step would be to basically do a little bit of cleanup, because where we left off in the previous project, we created our own functions folder. And I'm going to delete this whole functions folder. As you'll see later on, we'll be using the new Steam Firebase Extensions, meaning you don't need to create your own functions to get a StreamChat token. It's going to be automatically done for you. So yeah, the other thing that we can do is there are a few other files that we can delete. One is this demo users, as this was used in the first two tutorials, or the second tutorial. So we no longer need that. So we're just going to do a bit of housekeeping. And the select user screen was also where we selected a dummy user. But yeah, we don't need that anymore, as we are now getting real users from Firebase. Okay, then the next step would be to make sure that your StreamChat backend is configured and that Firebase is also configured. So since I made the third video tutorial, I have deleted all of those resources, so I'll need to recreate those. So I'm just going to quickly show you the steps to do that. So if you're not familiar, you can follow along, or you can skip as you see necessary. Okay, so I've navigated to dashboard.getstream.io, and from here, I'm just going to create a new app, and we're going to call this Chatter episode 4. Maybe we can say Chatter demo. Maybe I'll keep it this time. And yeah, I'm in the EU, so I'm just going to say that's the location and create the, okay, I've already made this, so I guess I still have it. But okay, for clarity's sake, let's create a new one, just so that anyone that's watching this for the first time would also be familiar with the steps. Okay, so we've created a new one. Now we need to do a similar process for Firebase. So again, the assumption is you don't have a Firebase project yet. So within Firebase, you just say add project, and this one we will say chatter tutorial, and we can do that. And we don't need analytics, so just gonna speed through this. Okay, once that process is done, hit continue. And now the first thing that we will definitely need to do is to enable authentication, because yeah, we need authentication in this application. So yeah, just say get started. And for this app, all we have is email and password authentication. If you wanted to do Google or any other of those, it would also be possible, and it will actually be better. It's a better integration then, because then you'll automatically get the user's name and their profile image, which will automatically sync to Stream as well. But yeah, for demo purposes, we'll do email password. Then next up, we will need to install the Chat Firebase extension to automatically do authentication for us. And yeah, I'll link the announcement blog post as well as a guide for Flutter to incorporate this in your application. So if you need more information, you can find that in the video description with these links. Then yeah, in this blog post, you can see we just need to navigate to this page where we can authenticate with Stream Chat. You can also access this directly from Firebase if you go to the extensions panel, which is here. Then it's just a matter of finding, once it loads, a matter of finding the correct extension. But okay, I guess it loaded. As you can see, there's a lot. And here, authenticate with Stream Chat. So this is the one that we want. Or you can just get the direct link from the video description. But okay, let's install it from here. And yeah, read this, make sure you understand what you're doing. But essentially what we need to do, because we will be using Firebase functions, means we need to set up billing for our project, because we need to be on a different plan, a different Firebase plan. So the plan that we need to be on is the Blaze plan, I believe. And yeah, don't worry, this is not going to cost you any money. You'll need to actually hit a lot of API requests and usage before you actually get charged. And it's also possible to set a billing budget. So yeah, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to say $5. You can try one or even less. When I did one, the extension did fail to install, but I don't know if that was just a random coincidence or not. But yeah, we'll say 5 and then set up. You have reached the maximum number of projects attached to this billing account. Okay, hold on, I'm going to fix that. Okay, let's try this again. I just deleted one of my old demos. This is what happens when you make too many tutorials. Just to actually move this along, I'm going to stop this whole process of creating it, and instead I'm going to use the project that I made when I did this initial test before I started the recording. So in this one, this chatter preview, this is the one that we will use. It already has users and everything. So I'm just going to quickly clean up this project and then we'll continue from this one. And as you can see, I've already installed the StreamChat extension. So I'm just going to uninstall it and then we can reinstall it. So let's just wait for this to finish. Okay, so this project should be clean now, and let's go through that process again. So we just go through this. Okay, it seems to be fine. This project already has billing enabled. So yeah, that sets up on that screen you saw on a while back. You'll just need to enable billing and set a limit. And yeah, whatever issues you run into may be different, but it should be smooth. So as you can see, with this extension, we're creating the following cloud functions: create stream user, delete stream user, get stream user token, and revoke stream user token. These two are automatically initiated based on when you create a Firebase user. So if you create a Firebase user, automatically it creates a stream user. If you delete a Firebase user, automatically it deletes it. And then you have these two callable functions. You can get a user token or revoke a user token. And these are the two that we'll be using in code. So yeah, the next thing you'll need to do is enable cloud secret. So you'll see there's like a pop-up here that says enable this for this project. This is because you need to store your stream key and secret in the database. Let me just zoom in a bit to make this a little bit easier viewing. And then, yeah, we can say next. And then the final step would be, yeah, this is also just access stuff. Then you can choose your cloud functions location. Be careful here. I've run into issues in the past where certain locations give issues if you don't hard specify in your code that you're using that location. But yeah, we'll just stick to a central one. And then we need to give an API key and an API secret. And we can get that from our project dashboard. So at the main page, Chat tutorial, the one that we created, we'll copy the key, paste in the key, and the same for the secret. Paste that in. Then I'm going to delete this project so this can't be misused. So yeah, just create that. And then once it's created, you saw that pop-up, install the extension. And now it's a matter of just waiting for it to finish. Okay, I got a pop-up saying the extension is installed. So let's do a refresh. Okay, cool. So now we can just say get started. And here you will find more information on exactly what you need to do. And but yeah, don't worry about this. We will be showing you how to do it in this video. One thing I should note is, again, if you need more information on any of these steps, take a look at the guide that we wrote for Flutter, but this should be relevant no matter what SDK you use. But yeah, this gives all of the code and all of these steps in a different way. So now that this is ready, what we need to do now is also add Flutter to our project. So yeah, just to iterate, I went to the home page and I just pressed Flutter. And let's get this process started. And this is a lot easier now than a few months ago to get Flutter up and running with Firebase. The first thing that you'll need to do is have the Flutter Fire CLI. So I already have this installed, but even if you have it installed as well, it's a good idea just to copy this and then run the command again to make sure it is updated to the latest version. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. But what we do want is we want to copy this command and configure our Flutter project with this Chatter preview, the Firebase project. So what you need to do is you need to go to where you have your project and just run Flutter Fire configure and then follow the steps. I don't think you get, you do get prompted. So now you need to choose which platforms. And we only have Android configured. So I'm just going to say for Android. Note that for iOS, there may be additional steps that you need to do. I recommend always reading the documentation. But yeah, this process is always improving and getting better. Okay, I'm just going to say, yeah, the files will be updated. Yep, so this automatically updates the Gradle files for you. So you don't need to do any configuration. This should technically work now. Firebase is now configured for our Android application. Your experience may vary for other platforms. At least for Android, in my testing, it worked really well. So you can see it automatically created this Firebase options.dart file. And this is the information that's associated with that project. So now, let me think, what is the next step that we need to do? The next step that we'll need to do is to actually update our code. So everywhere where we used to use the old functions that we created in episode 3 of this video series, we'll now be using the new updated functions that were automatically created. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to say, I'm going to search for Callable. So this function's HTTP callable. This is what we care about. So as you can see, we are using the callables in 3 places: in the sign-in screen, sign-up screen, and the splash screen. The splash screen is just a loading screen to recreate a token once if the user is already authenticated. So the thing that we need to do here is to update this to be using the correct token, the correct function that is created by Firebase. So how can we determine what that correct function name is? Well, okay, I'm just going to finish this whole thing. This is actually a step that I forgot. We will need to also give the default options when we initialize the app. So in our code, I'm just going to search for that, initialize app. And let's see, this is where we're doing it. We're doing it in main, and I'm just going to pass in the options. And this is not the correct one. It should be in the Firebase. And then we just need to bring in the default Firebase options file. Okay, yeah, sorry, forgot about that step. And now it should technically work out of the box. Okay, and then going back to Firebase, we can just continue. And now if we go to our functions, you'll see we have the following 4 functions. And these are the names that are defined as well. And additionally, if you go to the extension, you click on manage, and you say how this extension works, you can see here we have the names as well. So we care about the get stream user token and the revoke stream user token. So back in our search, let's just search for Callable again, and we can start with the sign in screen. So the flow that we had for the sign in screen was that we would call Firebase auth instance sign in with email and password. And if this is successful, we get the user. And from this, we call the cloud function, getStreamUserToken, which will now be the extension version. And this gets the stream token. And then using that token, the result, we pass that into the connect user. One thing we can do is clean this up a little bit. So I'm just going to call this results. And here I'm just going to say call. If I can type, and we'll need to await that. So this is just a little bit cleaner way. And yeah, again, when we call connect user, this is the token that we pass in. So if we inspect this, you can see it requires a token, which is a string value. And if this is successful, then it means we connect it to Stream and we connect it to Firebase. So now we can navigate to the home screen. Something else that we can do to be a bit more robust is to also add an exception or try catch to actually handle Firebase function exceptions. So we'll handle those scenarios specifically. And we'll need to add catch here. And what we're going to do is we'll just log the information. So we'll log an error and we'll say code, and let's do this 3 times. We can say message, and we can even do the stack trace if we wanted to, but let's do details. And in the same way that we show an error message, we can also show an error message, and here we can be explicit and say that error retrieving stream chat token. Okay, so a little bit more robust. So I'm just going to copy this code again, the name for this. And now on the sign up screen, we're going to do a similar flow. The only difference is that in the previous video, we had logic to create a function, or the function that we had would essentially have created the stream user and also return a token. If you need more information, watch the previous video, or don't worry too much about what I'm saying. But if you remember earlier, I mentioned that with the new Firebase extension, with Stream Chat, what that does, it automatically creates the Stream Chat user for you once you create a Firebase user. So let's explore that as an example. If we were to go here and press add user, it would automatically add it in Firebase, and it would automatically also add it in Stream Chat. So on the Stream Chat dashboard, it would automatically be added as well. Okay, we're not going to do that. You can play around with that yourself. But yeah, so what we want to do now is, for one, it's call different. All we want now, we still want the result, and the result is still going to be a token. But all we want to do now is just get the user token. We don't want to do anything addition to that. However, there's one problem though, because with the approach that we had previously, what we did is we created the Firebase user, and like we updated the display name and we updated a photo URL. So it allows you to set a photo and the display name for the user. And only after that did we create the Stream Chat user. The problem that we have now is that the moment you create the Firebase user, it automatically creates the Stream Chat user. Meaning if you update the Firebase user display name and update the photo URL, that's not going to automatically update your stream information. That is a function that you can make and explore making on your own. Another alternative would be to just, once you register the user, to do the following. You create the Firebase user, you update the Firebase information with the correct image and the correct profile picture, whatever, with the name, and then you get the Stream Chat token using the function we already have. And when you connect the user, you also update the user with the correct information. So what this connect user will do is it will either create the user or update it. And actually it won't update it. It will create it if it doesn't exist. Otherwise it will just connect. So meaning we pass in this name and image, but the user is already created on stream. So this name and image won't be saved. What we will need to do is also call update user. So I'm just going to extract this and call this stream user. And instead of passing it in here, we can just pass in that object. And now what we also want to do is await client.update user. And then we can pass in the stream user. And I think that is all that we need to do for this code to work. The last thing is we can clean this up as we did before, await this, and just say .call. Okay, so I think that should work, hopefully. And yeah, let's see, the last place that we now need to do the same thing is in the splash screen. And all we need to do here is the same thing. So I'm just going to say that this is .call. And we'll just call it callable like this. And what the splash screen does is it determines if Firebase is authenticated. So it checks to see if Firebase is authenticated. If yes, then it goes and retrieves the Stream Chat user token. If you wanted to, you could also securely store the Stream Chat user token locally, so you can avoid this step. And that is maybe something we can do in a future video to look into secure storage on Flutter. So yeah, with all of these steps now, our app should work, and it should work fine. Touch wood. So let's open an emulator and see what happens. And what we will need to do now is Flutter run. And hopefully, if all of the magic worked with Firebase and the extensions and the local configuration, and I didn't make a mistake updating the code, it should work. Okay, it did fail. The one thing that I do want to avoid is us going down a rabbit hole of trying to debug what went wrong and then having to do it again once we update pub. So what I think would be prudent to do is to actually get pubsec. So we're going to go here and we're going to update all of our dependencies. And because the next step that we'll need to do is update StreamChat Flutter Core to version 4 anyway. So what we can do is we can run .pub outdated, I think. Yeah, so that's the command, and this will tell you which packages can be updated and which transitive dependencies can also be updated. So as an example, cache network can be 3.2.1, cloud functions 3.3.2, and Cappuccino. This is technically not necessary, to be honest. Firebase Auth and Firebase Core. Google Fonts, might as well update this. Actually, yeah, sorry. This one has 3.0.1. So when it's rated, it means it's actually a higher version you can upgrade to. Jiffy is at 5. Yeah, I'm Jeffy. We're gonna leave. I'm not sure if there's breaking changes. And then the Stream Chat Flutter Core will do 4.4. Logger, I don't see anything here, so we'll assume that one is fine. Okay, so we're gonna do two things. We're gonna delete the log file, and let's just run flutter pub-get again. And a good idea as well is to run Flutterfire configure again, especially if you update anything on Firebase. For example, if you were to enable real-time database or something like that, then it's a good idea to run this command again, because then the configuration may have changed. So, okay, we ran that again. Things are at the latest versions. And let's see, maybe things work now magically. Okay, it's building. It may be that for whatever reason, because I'm on Flutter 3, and yeah, it could be that there's issues either with the environments or some of these dependencies, maybe with having a dependency on something that's not working with this version of Flutter. But yeah, not worth delving into that as it's working now. Okay, so now the question is our extensions and Cloud Functions going to be working? So one thing that we do need is a picture URL. So I'm going to create accounts for all of these Stream Flutter engineers. So we're just going to go to the Stream Chat Flutter repository, and we can get, we'll create one for Salvatore first. So I'm just going to take his image and let's create his account. Okay, and I was going to do this test.com, but I've already created those users when I did my initial one. So let's say stream.com. This is not the correct stream domain, by the way. Let's do the correct one, getstream.io, and super secure password. Okay, so we have an error. Message API key not found. Oh, okay. So this is not a Stream error, or it's not a Firebase issue. It's a Gordon issue. At the very beginning, we saw that we have a to-do, input your Stream API key here. So yeah, we need to do that. This is what is locally needed by the Stream client to connect to your Stream application. Okay, so for my application, I'm just gonna get the correct key, and then let's see. Hopefully, I use the correct keys everywhere. Okay, so in the terminal, I'm just gonna do a hot restart. What should happen now is we should. Okay, it works. So what happened is we did a refresh. The splash screen went and it got the token from Firebase, and then we're using that token to connect the user. So yeah, just to reiterate, this stream key, if we look at where it's used when we create the Stream Chat client. So yeah, feel free to take a look at this code on your own, or go watch episode 2 where we go into more detail on this. So now the question is that will the rest work, everything we had before? I think it should. But there are no other users at this stage except for Salvatore. So the other issue is now we have this problem. It didn't update Salvatore's profile picture, which is probably due to the fact that maybe the key was wrong. Let's take a look at the sign up screen and see what those steps were. We connect the user and then we call update user. And this should have been fine. Oh, okay. It wouldn't have been fine because the client is not, it wasn't using the correct key. So yeah, unfortunately, we screwed up Salvatore's account, and by we, I mean me. So let's just sign out, and we're going to create a new one. So let's get one for Devin. We'll copy the image address, and we'll create a new account, call it Devin, paste that in. Okay, awesome. It worked. And as you can see, okay, it didn't work. Okay, so I managed to get it working. It was, honestly, I'm not too sure what is going on. The problem seems to be with re-registering the users that I previously created when I had my old Firebase project. So basically creating accounts for users I haven't made seems to work fine. So I'm guessing something odd is going on there. But yeah, if you run into this issue, I'd be very curious. Please let me know in the comments, or even on GitHub. You can create an issue there, and let me know if you run into something similar. It might be worth investigating more. But yeah, just to reiterate, creating a new account with a user I haven't made before in the past with my old Firebase project seems to work fine. So yeah, we managed to create one for Nash. And if Nash now starts a chat with me, these are like valid accounts, just the name and description didn't update. Something else I had to do was just do a hot restart, and then it worked. Okay, so now we have a chat between Nash and Gordon. So let's just say, hey there, Gordon. Hey there, Gordo. I actually hate it when people call me that. One thing to note, it says that I was online last for 2 hours ago, and that is because currently it's 4 p.m., but my emulator says 6 p.m. So this is not an issue with Stream or the code. It's an issue with just my emulator having the wrong time. So we can send that message, and we can say second message. And if we now just sign out, and we can then also sign in with Gordon at Get. Did I use GetStream? I don't remember. Maybe I used test.com. No, I used GetStream. Okay, and now we have a message from Nash. So if we tap this, we can just send a reply. And now this is where the important bit comes in. And that is to actually migrate to version 4. Because at this stage, we are on version 4. However, in a lot of places in our code, we'll actually still need to migrate properly. And for that, we'll basically be going through these issues one by one and migrate to version 4. So let's get that process started. But this one is entirely unrelated. It is just like a null issue that we had. So yeah, we just always need to return something. And this is to get the channel image. Feel free to take a look at that. Okay, the first thing that we now need to do is channels block and the users block is deprecated. And if you remember from previous videos, this is basically our state class, and it also is a way to give an inherited widget for us to easily access all of the channels and to easily access all of the users. So this channels block contains the channel users here, list of channels, and the users block contains the list of users. Same for contacts here, the list of users. So if we hover over this, you'll see that it's deprecated and shouldn't be used. Use StreamChannelListController instead. Try replacing the use of the deprecated member with the replacement. And to facilitate with this process, we're just going to go to the documentations for Flutter, where we have our guides. And we'll look for, you can either look at the migration guide if you haven't done this. This is especially helpful if you use our UI packages, so not the core package. When you use the UI package that gives the chat fully out of the box for you. Here you'll get an overview of everything that changed. Or alternatively, you can just look at Chat Flutter Core, make sure you're on version 4. There's also docs for version 3. And we can take a look at the StreamChannelListController. So as this mentions, we want to replace channels block with StreamChannelListController. So we're just going to YOLO this and remove both of these. Let's do one at a time. Okay, so we're going to remove the channels block. If we do a restart now, it should break, I believe. Okay, yeah, so it does break. Something went right. I can at least call when stuff is going to break sometimes. Okay, so what we'll need to do to actually fix this issue is to now in the messages page where we show the messages, we'll need to do some changes. And as you can see, the ChannelListController is also stated that it needs to be updated with the StreamChannelListController. And if we jump to this, you can see that here we have a link. So if we click this link, then it takes us to the documentation that will show you a step-by-step instructions on how to use the StreamChannelListController. Essentially, what this allows us to do is to give us more control over where we initialize our states and how we pass that states around. And it's not entirely dependent on particular widgets. So one example is that the filter, for example, moves to this controller instead of being on the widget itself. So let's just copy paste. We're not going to copy paste this. I'm going to copy paste this though, and we'll use it now. So let's go back to messages page. And in the past, we used this ChannelListController. Now it's going to be StreamChannelListController. And this requires us to pass in a client. And we can get that from calling StreamChat core of context.client. And to access an inherited widget like this, we'll need to make this late. And I'm going to paste in the init state and the dispose. So what we're saying is in init state, we're calling ChannelListController do initial load. So we want to load the list of channels that we have. And what we'll also do is copy this filter. And we're going to put that filter on the controller itself now. And we no longer need this StreamChannelListController at all. So instead, if you take a look at the documentation, you can see that to be reactive and listen to what the ChannelListController has, we can use a paged value listenable builder. And we pass in a value listenable of the ChannelListController. So I'm just going to copy all of this. And what we'll need to do is return this build. So this is from the source code or the documentation, making this a block body because I prefer that. And we'll return page value listenable builder. We don't need that scaffold. Okay, so now we just need to update what we had in our build with what this new one does. And feel free to take a look at what the guide recommends you do, or like the sample in the guide. We want to maintain our screen how we had it before. But yeah, if we quickly explore this, we pass in the ChannelListController as a value listenable, and then we get a builder with the context and the value, which is a paged value, which gives you access to the page key and the channels. And then you get the child. So if you have a static child you wanted to pass in. But yeah, so using this value, we can call the when operator. And this will give us a few conditions, the default, loading, and error. So as you can see, by default, what we do is we get the channels, the next page key, and an error. And then we call lazy load scroll view. And on the end of the page, this comes from Chat Flutter, lazy load scroll view. It's just a convenience method. You can do pagination whatever way you want. But at the end of the scroll view, there's this override that we can give. On end of page, we just call load more if there is a next page key. And this is quickly how you can do pagination in your application for Stream Chat. And then we pass down a list view builder. We give it an item counts, item builder, and basically get all of the channels and then just return something. So whatever channels that we have. But yeah, we'll need to update this to reflect what we had before. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take the code for the empty builder And here in this when, I don't think we have an empty. Yeah, we don't have an empty condition, so we'll need to do that check in a different way. Well, let's do center for loading. So loading will be this, and error is this one. Okay, and now we also need to do the list builder. So when we get the list of channels, so I'm just going to copy all of this. Okay, and basically where we do this lazy load scroll view, this list view builder, we don't want this list view builder. So I'm going to remove all of that. And we want a custom scroll view. I think that should be fine. So I'm just going to remove this code. And let's do a hot restart and see what happens. Okay, and it's working as expected. So now we can see we have our channel back. The one thing that we now lost is that ability to be like, what if the list of channels is empty? So to do that, but I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you. And again, you can update this code whatever way it makes sense for you. The main important thing is that using this channel list controller, we can be a bit more, you can be more creative with the way that you handle and pass down your stream state. And it's not confining you to use pre-built widgets that do X, Y, Z. So yeah, now we have this. We need to do the same for our contacts page and this page over here where we get the users. So if we go back to main, we can now remove the users block. So remove this widget, restart contacts. Okay, we get an error as expected because we no longer have that state in our widget tree. So if we go to our contacts page, again, you can see user list core is deprecated and use StreamUserListController. So it's very similar to what we just did. So let's jump to this and jump to the guide for this. Same thing, we need to create a controller. We can do the initial load and we do a page value listenable builder, similar to what we had before. So let's go to our contacts page and we'll create a stateful widget. And we can copy this code. And the init state and dispose. And we'll copy the suggested build as well. And now it's a matter again of just replacing what we had before. So for the loading condition, we'll, let me get the correct one. For loading, we'll return this. And for error, we'll return this. And for the list view builder, we can copy this like this. And here we have our list view builder. So what we'll do is remove all of it. And not items, it's going to be channels, I believe. Let's see what they did. List view users, okay. So as you can see, we get the users here. And one thing to note though is that in the past, we got a different value. We got this header user item. Now all we get is the actual user. So what we'll need to return here is contact tile user, and we just pass in users index. There we go. And then we can remove this bold. And same thing, we're getting rid of like when there's no users to show, but I'll leave that as an exercise for you to do. And now if we go to the contacts page, oh no, something went wrong. Please check your config. And the reason something went wrong is probably because we need to do a hot restart, because we created a stateful widget. Okay, no, that's not the reason. Let's see what happened. Oh, okay, the filter, if we take a look at the error message, query users failed with error, filter condition is required. So that's the problem, we're no longer filtering. So if we take a look at what changed on our contact page, and we can take a look at the filter that we used to have. If we did have a filter, yeah, okay, yeah, so the filter, we had a limit and a filter. So I'm just gonna copy both of these. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry, one more time. So yeah, I'm just getting the old code that we had. And we'll pass in the limit and the filter. And this current index is, this current user is just an extension method that exists in this application. So it's stream chat context, just quickly getting the current user based on the context. Okay, so now we'll do a hot restart and hopefully it works. Okay, cool. We have all of our users, and yeah, if we click Nash again, we can, message him. So yeah, that's the main update that we had to do. The other cool updates that I recommend doing now, technically you won't even see this as an error anywhere. We can quickly clean this. I'm just removing, what I'm doing here is I'm running .fix on all of this to just remove unnecessary imports. I have my VS Code set up to do that on save. So okay, now we have all of the problems resolved. But the next thing that I'm going to show you is if we go to the messages page, the chat screen. What we're going to do is use another controller that's newly introduced to do some additional nice things. So what this chat page is if we click Nash here we get all of this. So this is what this screen does. And at the bottom here, we have a text field, which is this text field over here. And what we're doing, let me just make more space. So we have a text editing controller, and based on the text editing controller value, we send a message to the stream channel that's currently in the tree, and we pass in the message. We create a message and send it like that. The thing though is messages can be more complex. You can send attachments. You can actually do quite a lot. And the thing that we're going to use now is StreamMessageInputController, which is basically a text editing controller on steroids, but for Stream Chat Flutter. So yeah, instead of talking, let's just look into it. So what we'll do is we're going to go to the guides and Stream Chat Flutter Core, and we'll take a look at the StreamMessageInputController. So a widget for controlling a message inputs. And yeah, you can take a look at this. This will give you more information, but we're going to use it quite in its basic form. But in the future, if we ever wanted to do more, then this would be perfect. So if we wanted to send attachments as an example. So let's just call this controller to keep it consistent with what we had. And as you can see, the controller also has a text value. So that will be the text value that's associated with the message. But the controller also has a message value. So what do I mean by that? Instead of us creating this message here, we can just say controller.message when we send the message. The thing now is that we need to update the controller when the message value changes. So if we scroll down, our text field controller is no longer there, text editing controller, but we can just get the text editing controller that lives on the StreamMessageInputController. And then what we'll need to do as well is we'll call controller.text, and we can set that equal to the value. So basically, the text editing controller, if you read the documentation, it should give you more information, is basically a value notifier that notifies you when the message being composed has changed. So with this code, I do believe it should work, but we're going to do it, we're going to explore it a bit more, just to show you a bit of like the additional things that you can do. So let's hope something works in this video. I'm going to do a hot restart, and let's send another message. Okay, and it did seem to work. We can do a hot restart just to confirm. Perfect. So it is sending the message. Though, let's explore this a bit more in depth. I'm going to also create an init state. And in this init state, we'll take the controller and we'll add a listener to it. And the listener, I'm just going to copy in the code, is called onTextChange. Okay. And what this is for us to better create debounce functionality. So we're creating a timer called debounce, and we'll say that we'll call this onTextChange each time the controller changes value. So when we update the message value. And in the dispose, we'll also say controller.remove listener, and we'll say the onTextChange, so the same method. And for now, let's just comment this out and just say print change and do a hot restart. And if we type something, you can see Android has a lot of extra information. I don't know why I'm getting all of this, but yeah, you can see we get change print over there. So perfect. Now let's explore what the code is that I want to show. We have a debounce. If it is active, then we cancel the debounce, and then we restart the debounce, which is a timer of 500 milliseconds. And once that is finished, we check to see if we are mounted. And if we are, we call StreamChannelOfContext.channel.keystroke, which is the way that we indicate to Stream that someone is busy typing. So we're already doing that here in the text field, if I can find it. So yeah, onChanged, we already call this, but the thing is we call this now for every single time you type, which may be unnecessarily. If someone is typing really fast, that's going to be a lot of events, and it's unnecessarily sending that. We'll rather just want to do it, you know, every 500 milliseconds or every second even. Second is probably a better option. So now this will only be called for each second. So let's do a hot restart. And we don't have any logs to verify this, and we'll need to sign into another account, but you can taste this yourself. So now if we're typing, we stop, a second passes, then we do the actual keystroke event. So this is one way that's quite nice about the StreamMessageInputController. The other thing that's really nice is now this allows you to update the value of the controller from anywhere in your application. Depending on how you wanted to share this controller, it could be higher up in your widget tree and you just pass it down. And then maybe you have like a functionality to, I don't know, like if you press here, it takes you to a screen that also allows you to update or send messages. Or maybe you would want to add attachments. So as an example, controller add attachment. The adding attachments can happen when you click on the camera over here and take a picture and you add that as an attachment, which technically can happen from any parts in your widget tree. Maybe once you tap this, it takes you to a new screen or whatever. So it's just an easier way to manage everything related to the message. And once you add an attachment, it means that you don't need to maintain the message state or the message object, because it's already maintained for you. So yeah, take a look at everything that is here. You can also do, easily do a quoted message, or you can easily do a mentioning of users, and you can clear who you're mentioning. For more information, I recommend taking a look at the Chat Flutter UI package, which uses the controller extensively for various internal things, just to simplify managing this state. I do believe that is the most important things that I wanted to show in this video. As you can see, our migration to version 4 is complete, and our change to Firebase extensions is also complete, and things seem to work. They only broke somewhat. So just to keep this series clean moving forward, I'm also just going to update the Flutter Lints package to version 2, as that has newly been released with Flutter 3. And as you can see, we already have 15 problems. So depend on reference packages. I've never seen this issue before. Let's see what this is. Okay, so what this is basically saying is we need to explicitly add dependencies for meta. So I guess we can do that. I'm just adding that dependency. So cool, that issue went away. And in pubsect, we have now meta as a dependency. Do not use build context across async gaps. Okay, so for this, you can either extract the context higher up. So as an example, we can say final nav, and then just call nav.push. The reason it's giving that issue is because technically this await, this feature over here, can cause an error. So for example, like let's say this takes really long and you close the app or you go back to a different screen, then this widget will no longer be mounted in Flutter. And the problem then is that it will cause an error because it can no longer get referenced using the context, because that context no longer exists. So you won't be able to actually get the navigator. You won't be able to call this push. So that's one option. You could have done this extraction. The other option is to keep this as is and to make this a stateful widget. And then checking to see if you are mounted. So if not mounted, return. So basically this won't be called if the widget is no longer mounted, meaning you probably don't care to do this because you're no longer mounted. Yeah, so you can take a look whether the state object is currently in a tree. That is what that means. So if we continue to look at this, yes, I'm actually not too sure why this is. Let's see what the default should look like when we create a new stateful widget. Test. The way that we fix this is by saying state messages page. So yeah, I guess the old built-in like generators, like stateless widget like this, on stateful widgets, they did it in the wrong way. But yeah, you can read that warning more if you want. What is this issue? Depend on reference packages. So let's add that. Collection. Cool. Same for this. And here we'll again, if not mounted, return. Same. We can say if not mounted, return. I mean, are we going to do this every single time? Do we get this Stream Chat Core? Yeah, I guess then we can do this one different. We can say if mounted, then we'll just wrap this in this. And navigate to context. Yeah, we'll if mounted again. A little bit annoying, but definitely worth it to be safe. So we'll do if mounted. And yeah, I'm just going to do it for all of these. What this shows us is that the code is not clean, and it's definitely very too dependent on stateful widgets. Ideally, what we want to do is move all of this logic to a repository or a service or whatever you want to call it. And that's something we can definitely do in a future video, as at this stage it's very interdependent and it's very hard to test, and making changes means you need to make changes in multiple places. Meaning if we saw that in this video, and this is a good example of why we should be isolating code wherever possible. So if what I'm saying sounds really foreign to you, let me know in the comments. It might be worth it for us to take this application a step further and isolate it. Basically extend the current architecture that we have in a way that's more maintainable and will allow us to do testing. So yeah, if you're interested in that, let us know in the comments. But yeah, with that said, it's probably a lot longer than I intended this video to be, just because we ran into a few issues. But yeah, running into issues is good. It allows us to also debug and learn from our mistakes. So as a last thing, before we just make this video complete, I think it's worth it just to make sure that things are still working. You know, that I didn't do one of those mounted wrong. Hello. Okay, yeah, things seem to be working fine. It's probably worth it to sign out and sign back in. Let's sign on as Nash. And now here you can see we have messages from Gordon, and we can send another one back. Nice. Perfect. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, let us know what you would like to see next, or where you're struggling. Feel free to leave a comment or leave an issue on GitHub. And yeah, until the next video, goodbye.